All right, so the first thing is on here, I try to give you some feedback. But one, make sure you read instructions. Some of you missed the actual coterminal part. And it says to graph it. So I only need you to graph the original angle. The other one should actually be the same, but the curves around it should just be different. You want to make sure you give yourself the curve with the direction on this one. So the 168 goes past the 90, but it's before the 180. It's probably even past this, but this is an approximation. Okay? So you want to make sure you have that angle drawn. I mean the arrow drawn. And then your positive coterminal, I add 360 and I get 528. Subtract 360 to get the negative one, and it's negative 192. So if you had drawn 528, it should start and stop the same spot. It just goes around one more time. And if you had drawn the negative 192, it still starts and stops the same. It should just go, God bless you, in the other direction. So keep that in mind, that your initial and your terminal should always be the same. It's just however many times around it goes. So on the quiz, the questions like this, you only have to graph the original one, and then you're finding the coterminals. So this would be on like an answer sheet, because you actually have to graph it.
But you don't have to do the circles or the arrows
for the other two. You don't need to. Yep. For number 2, negative 125, now we're going clockwise, so it's down and to the left. And then your positive coterminal, you add the 360, 235, subtract the 360, negative 485. Like I said, most of you did pretty good on a couple of things here or there, whether it was the area or the coterminal, not reading that direction, so be careful. Converting from decimal degree to degree minute second, or vice versa. So I want to warn you that on your quiz, you're not going to have your normal calculator. You will only have the lockdown browser 4-function calculator. So the way you do these, you've probably gotten comfortable. Remember, those scientific calculators even have the arrow DMS button that I didn't show you on intentionally, so you're not using it. But this, you'll have to do it the way this is kind of set up. So the 128 is obviously what keeps as the whole number, and then you're going to take 18 divided by 60, and you get a decimal from that. And then the 54 over the 3600, and you want to divide that, and then you want to add them all together. And it should be 128.315 degrees.
So you don't do like 0 seconds?
No. On the answer, you mean for the second one?
Yeah.
No, you don't need it. Okay. So I don't know if I'd mark it wrong, but you don't need it. So then the second one, you wanted, obviously the 125 is your degrees, and then you take the 0.85 and you're going to multiply it times 60. And from there, we got a whole round number 51. If it was 51 point something, then remember we keep the 51, that's the minutes, and then we take the point whatever, multiply it times 3600, and that's your seconds. If you don't have seconds, you don't need them. So if you wrote 0 seconds, that's totally fine. Some of you put like 3600, I don't know where that comes from, but you don't need to do that, because it would be technically, there'd be no decimal there to add on. Then came the first one with the coordinate point. So it said the points on the terminal side of an angle in standard position, find the exact values of the 6 trig functions. So you move left and up because it's a -5 and a +12. My theta goes in that little corner, so you can draw yourself your triangle if you need it. The missing side here is 13. Remember, that's a triple. So you've got 5, 12, 13, 6, 8, 10, 3, 4, 5, 7, 24, 25, 8, 15, 17. Those are the common ones. If you don't know those triples, then you're going to have to do the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side. And there will be one on the test or on your quiz that has the triples, and there will be one that you have to find it using the Pythagorean theorem, and you could have a square root in there. Yep.
I made a mistake where I put the right triangle against the y-axis.
Yeah, so it's never there. Move the x out and then the y up.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I still got the right answer.
It's all right. I mean, the drawing of it doesn't matter as long as you understand what you're doing. Yeah.
So the point is always going to be on the terminal side?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and do we have to draw it?
Mm-mm.
Wait, what is terminal side?
It means where it ends, where that angle ends. So technically, this is the angle that would be theta, but we use a reference angle and we build it with the x-axis. So this just means it's where it ends. That's all. Yeah.
The terminal side of the angle was on an act, the
That's the next one.
Is that the example we did yesterday?
Yeah, and that one's the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was only a couple of you just forgot your sign, so just be really careful here. I think somebody didn't find the R. You've got to find the R. You've got to find all 3 sides, and then you got to find all the different. So there's 6 parts of this kind of question, and you'll have to type them in. These will be like a 12/13 as far as a fraction goes, okay? And it will say sine, and then it will leave you a blank. Cosine, and it will leave you a blank. Tangent, and it will leave you a blank. And you're just typing them in.
Is the R always going to be the X but positive? Oh,
No,
wait, just kidding.
no, it's 13. It's going to
That's on a
complete.
straight line when
Yes,
it's like that? Okay.
yes. When it's a triangle, they can
It's
never
the-
be the
it's
same
the hy-
because it's the hypotenuse. Yep, it's always going to be the biggest. Okay, then this one, that's what you're talking about, right? So these are the ones that fall on the X or Y axis. When they're like this, you can, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more when we get into tomorrow too, but you can set it up, right? That if I go left 5 and I don't go up or down at all, my point's on the left there. I went out 5, which makes the radius 5. So then the sign would be the y over the r, 0 over 5 is 0. The cosine is the x over the r. The x is negative 5 over positive 5, which becomes a negative 1. The tangent is the y over the x, 0 over 5, which is 0. And then we flip them for the reciprocal functions. And on your quiz, it's going to say, if it's undefined, put a lowercase u and d. So that's what I just started to do, so you can kind of get into that practice. Undefined is just ud, and then flip negative 1, it's negative 1, and flip again the 0, and it's undefined.
2 questions. So if the terminal like side of the angle was on the y-axis, would it be like the other example, like the example before this? Or
No, it would be just like this. So if it was 0, 5, let's say, right? Then my radius is still 5 because I went up 5.
Okay.
They just switch. Like these switch and these switch. Because now the y is the 5 and the x is the 0.
So if it's on the x-axis, then it's always going to be 0, undetermined, negative 1, like that. And if it's the other way, it's going to be.
Well, not necessarily negative 1. It's only negative 1 because it's left. If it was on the.
It would be right, like positive.
Correct.
But it's always going to be 0 and 1.
Yep.
Like
If they're on the
axis.
quadrants. Yep. Okay, then this one, this is your Pythagorean identities. So remember, these are the ones that we talked about yesterday, and I said I would let you know for sure if you have to do them using the Pythagorean identities. You do. So we're looking for the work here. So yes, I know we can set this up using a triangle, but you have to practice the identities. So the 3 are sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1, tangent squared plus 1 equals secant squared, and 1 plus cotangent squared equals cosecant squared. That's the one we need because we're doing cotangent and cosecant. So 1 plus cotangent squared equals cosecant squared. The cosecant is what's given this time, negative 5/3. 1 plus cotangent squared equals negative 5/3 squared, which becomes 25/9. Subtract the 1, and I get 25 minus 9, which is 16/9 equals cotangent squared. And then we would normally square root both sides, and when we do, we would have to do that plus and minus. But remember that plus and minus comes from the second piece of information that they give you. Because this is in the third quadrant, and all students take calculus, the third quadrant, cotangent and tangent are positive, everything else is negative. So we make the cotangent positive, and it's the positive 4/3. Yes?
On the quiz, you know how like the identity that you use has both like the cotangent and the.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be like that?
Yeah, we try to go easy on you, and not like the compound one where you had to use sine and.
Trying to do it and I was getting confused, but it's gonna be like that.
Yeah. So like if let's say it asks for tangent instead of cotangent, right? So you'd have to get to the point that we just got to and then flip it. If it's not the ones that match up. Yeah. Any questions on the class kicks? Like I said, this is a pretty good review of what you could see we'll review more on Monday or Tuesday of next week, but this is a pretty good review of what you could see as far as 5-1 and 2 go to. 5-3 is going to pull more of the right triangles in, the SOHCAHTOA, instead of the y over the r, the x over the r. So you can use that knowledge to help you with what we're going to do, but it's going to stick with more of the foundation of 5-1 and 5-2. Homework from 5-2. I did post I want to remind you that the answers for the odds are posted, and these are all odds. They're on the module at the very top, but I do want to go through if you've got any questions. So this was, again, these are posted on the top of the module of the Chapter 5 Brown Book. All the odds are there. But good morning. Number 3, it wanted all 6 trig functions for 3, 5, 7, and 9. So 3, the sine is 4/5, cosine negative 3/5, tangent negative 4/3. And then flip them for the reciprocal function. Number 5 is just like, so these are like the ones we kind of just did in that class kick. Number 5, the sine would be 1, cosine is 0, tangent undefined, and then flip them, 1, undefined, 0. 7 is one in which your triangle would not be one of the triples, right? So if I go to the right 1 and I go up square root 3, I have to find the hypotenuse by doing 1 squared plus the square root of 3 squared equals r squared 1 plus 3. And then r squared would be 4 and r would be 2. Then you have your complete triangle and you've got to fill out your trig functions. And then number 9 is back to being one of the quadrant angles. Then came the little equations, right, or the simplified expressions. So the cosecant of 270 you had to find, then multiply it times 4. The cosine of 180 you had to find, then multiply it times 3, and you should have gotten negative 7. 25 you should have gotten 3. 27 you should have gotten 1. So these you won't see on your quiz. I don't know if they'll come back on the test, but it's just too easy for that to be looked up. Yeah.
Number 25.
Yep.
I got I put it over and then I got for the second part undefined. I don't know if I just did it wrong.
So 0, right? My coordinate point there is 1, 0. This is cosine, the reciprocal of cosine, right? So cosine's 1, which means that's 1. So 2 times 1 plus the cotangent square root of 90. So 90 would be 0, 1. The cotangent there is the x over the y, which is 0. 0 squared is still 0. 4 times 0. And then the cosine of 360 means we double all the way back around to 360. Cosine there is the 1. So 1. And this would be 2 plus 0 plus 1. Okay. Yep.
So because this is the circle,
Right.
this is like as if the terminal angle was on the x or y axis. So
Correct.
it's gonna be zeros and ones.
Correct.
So the whole time you're like gonna go to wherever the angle for the secant, cosecant, sine, whatever it is, and then you're gonna take those points.
Right. Yep.
But is it the x or
It depends on the trig function. So if it's the cosine, it's the x, and if it's the sine, it's the y.
and if it's a curve?
And if it's tangent, it's the y over the x.
So then you divide and
Right. And then 45, this is where you wanted to use your reciprocal identity, so you just had to flip it. It would be negative 5. 47, you have to flip it and then rationalize it. Negative 3 square root 5 over 5. So if I was to write that in as an answer on Canvas, it'd be negative 3 SQRT 5 slash 5. So that's how the format's going to be written in. So like if you're writing that in a fill in the blank, this would be written like this. It won't. You guys will do it on paper. As long as you're here, you'll do it.
square root, okay.
Yeah, SQRT for square root.
How do you do number 49?
49, you literally, because that's a decimal, it said to use the calculator, you literally have to do 1 over that.
Oh.
That's it. So you won't have something like that because you won't have your calculator. Actually, you'll have a calculator, but not you wouldn't have something like that. You'll have just the 4-function calculator. 57 and 59 we're asking were the quadrants. 57 is quadrant 2. 59 had 2 answers, which is quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. And then 71 through 77 was based on those ranges, right? The interval range. The cosine can never be less than negative 1 or bigger than 1. So it's impossible, possible, possible, impossible. Is that the last one? No. And then these. Again, these answers are on the odds on the top of the module. Okay, if you have a question on that last page and I didn't get to it, feel free to remind me tomorrow when we start class. I can do it, and then we're going to get into 5-3 tomorrow. All right, folks, have a lovely math-free evening. Doesn't